Hello, my garden friends. This is Jersey Shore Lisa from MyNJGarden.com. Happy spring. It's been a long time since I posted a video. Let's take a look at what's happening in the garden today. There's a lot of work to do getting ready for spring. It's April 5th and we're supposed to have a couple of days straight of rain here at the Jersey Shore. I'm in Ocean County, New Jersey, and that's zone 7A, planting zone 7A. If you've never seen this channel before, I have a food forest in my garden. Because we're on the coastal plains of New Jersey, my soil is very sandy. I describe it as I'm living on a beach. I can easily dig any hole I ever want to dig. I never need the pickaxe that I needed at my previous property. However, there's as easy as it is to dig, it's because I'm living on sand. So there's not a whole lot of organic matter or nutrients in this soil. It's very hard to retain moisture here. So I have a food forest on this property. You can see some of the beds behind me, some of the fruit tree guilds. My bird bath right there is still overturned because we're still getting frosts here. I do have another one that's made of resin that is not in danger of cracking, but that one's ceramic. So I wait until things get a little warmer to flip that over and keep that full for the birds. We do use sheet mulching in these garden beds to keep as much moisture as possible. That also keeps the weeds down, and that's really helpful in this yard. I also am an Ocean County Master Naturalist. And along with taking that course and doing the volunteer hours that go along with that title, I've come to realize how important native plants are to supporting our ecosystem and the wildlife habitat that I'm trying to build within this yard. As a food forest gardener, I am a fan of permaculture, and I want to make this property as productive as possible so my family and I can use it, but I'm also interested in working with nature and using biomimicry. So that's where native plants come in. They require much less water. They're adapted to this climate and these soil conditions. So it takes less input from me for those kinds of plants to do well here. So as I'm choosing productive plants and supportive plants to bring pollinators and to assist with the growth of other plants in the space, I am keeping those native plants in mind to help support the local wildlife, both insects and the critters that come and help themselves to some of the produce that this garden produces. For example, this spring, I'm having a huge problem with squirrels. And squirrels are cool. No doubt. But last year, we had tons of pears on our pear tree. Now, it's a combination pear tree that lives in the rain garden, which is right over here behind me. So you can see our rain garden, early spring, nothing much is up yet in there. But the tallest tree is a combination pear tree. And last year we had plenty of pears on that tree, lots of flowers in the spring. This year, for some reason, the squirrels are eating all the little bunches of flower buds. There's not a single bunch of flower buds left. There's not a single bunch of flower buds left on that tree. And yet I still drive up the driveway in my car and shake my fist because I see them going up and down that tree for some unknown reason. It's not like they can get anywhere from there. The destination is the tree. It's not on the way somewhere. And they're there to eat the flower buds for I don't know why. Explain, please help me. Beyond that, I'm doing a few experiments in the yard. Many native plant enthusiasts encourage us to leave the leaves. Don't rake all the leaves up. Allow them to be mulch in the garden. It's habitat for insects and even ground nesting birds. So we want to leave kind of these little piles of sticks and brush and have these wild spaces in the yard. And I get that. And I am all for creating that habitat. But I found when I've tried to do that in the past that certain perennial plantings do tend to get smothered and don't perform as well if I leave too many leaves in those spaces. So in certain areas of the yard, I am scraping away those leaves and adding them to the compost piles. So behind me though, I am leaving the leaves in areas where it makes sense, underneath established berry bushes and fruit trees and things where I don't see there being a problem with the plants coming up through them. For example, the milkweed that I have planted right at the roadside in the very front of the yard. I have a meadow strip, and the milkweed has no problem bullying its way right up through those leaves. And maybe in your yard, you find things grow differently and they are more sturdy and will not have any problem coming up through the leaves. But my plants tend to be smaller than average here in this sandy soil. I do compost, but I don't use fertilizer in a big way that isn't from my compost. So some of my plants are smaller. They need a little more support. And so I am scraping the leaves away. I'm also finding they have that Monarda bee balm has a little trouble coming up through the leaves. And even, believe it or not, mountain mint is much more sparse during the season if there's a lot of leaves over the top of it in the spring. So I am scraping the leaves away in those sections. I'm also trimming pruning some of my trees now because it is early spring. So I have already, weeks ago, I pruned some of the branches, crossing branches or what looked dead and diseased off of the cherry tree and the pear and the peach. And now I've just, the last couple of days, just pruned back the fig so that when it does become enormous by the end of the season, that I can still reach the figs. Hopefully, I am optimistic that I'm going to get a ton of fruit and I'm going to need to reach all the ends of those branches to pick those figs. Thankfully, it's a really happy plant and it comes back and gets really big every year, probably about 15 feet tall and around. But unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of luck with fruit. And I think it's because I haven't been really pruning it down to some main branches with good scaffolding structure. So I'm trying that this year. I've pruned back a lot of the smaller growth even before it has a chance to leaf out, even though I'm kind of biting my nails about it because I don't know if anything has died back, but I'm pretty confident what I've left makes sense for the plant and that we'll get some new growth on there this year. Cross your fingers, wish me luck. I'll show you what that looks like now. Here is the side yard. Over here you'll see the fig tree right there where I have pruned it back so that the scaffold is fairly low. There's just a few main branches on there now. And next to that is an arbor with grapes on it. There are 3 grapes. One is planted in the front corner container and the other 2 are planted in the ground closest to me against the supports. One of them is a Concord seedless and the grapes are delicious, but I do have some trouble with them kind of shriveling and rotting. Some of them do, some of them don't. I get to eat some of them and some of them I put in the trash not to spread whatever is bothering them. But the other side, there is a grapevine that actually is green grapes and they have seeds and they're a little nasty. They're not delicious. I'm sure it's a wine grape and it's just not for me. So even though it's alive and would like to grow here, I'm gonna cut it down because I don't I think that maybe the fungal issues that are affecting the Concord grape is because that arbor gets a bit crowded during the growing season, and I want to give it the space it needs. Plus, that front grape in the container is just coming into its own. It's a little younger than the other two, and that one is going to start traveling along the arbor, and that's just not big enough for 3 grapevines. So I am going to get rid of one entirely this season, which kind of goes against me and what I want to do, because not everything I plant here survives on its own, and that one's really happy, and I'm going to take down something that's really happy, but it doesn't make sense for my goals in that space. So that's what's happening there. So here goes. I'm just going to take this. This is the grape. I cut down most of it when I pruned this during the winter, but I did leave this big trunk here, and now I'm just going to take it down to ground level. There it goes. Super happy grape. You can also see this bed behind me. This is one of my last beds that is using cinder block bricks. Cinder blocks have served me well in the past, and I've used them in quite a few garden beds. But it turns out in this yard in Ocean County, New Jersey, at the Jersey Shore, we are actually home to a lot of black widow spiders. And black widow spiders, they do tend to want to stick to themselves, and they tend to be in certain kinds of habitats that they really enjoy, which are dark, secluded little spaces, and they like warmth. So because this area of the garden has southern exposure, I used to have covering blocks on the top of these cinder blocks, and if you moved any of the blocks on top, or really spent some time working in that garden, even if the blocks were there, they weren't always covering all those open crevices perfectly. Black widows loved to hang out in those cinder blocks in a couple of beds that I had in this front yard. So we did remove those cinder block beds, and now you can see in the back there that I've replaced the cinder block beds with metal Vigo garden beds. A few different companies sell a very similar product. I've found that they work really well in my yard, and I think they'll last a very long time. So I'm very happy with the purchases that I've made so far to replace the cinder block beds that I have. And I expect that I won't have to replace these beds for many years. They're working out well. So I did get another one for this section. I have to move these blocks. I'd like to do this today and replace the border of this bed with a new metal bed that I've put together. And you can see that in the background there. It's waiting to be moved over to this section of the yard. One more thing, it's starting to rain here, but there's a plant swap and a seed swap going on at Jake's Branch County Park today, which is very close to my home. And it's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I probably won't post this until after that swap is over, but as I was renovating some areas of the yard, I did notice that I had some native raspberry plants that were coming up in areas that I don't want them to. Of course, that happens. Raspberries spread. It's the beauty of brambles, and they're so productive, especially in this soil type. So I yanked out a piece that I did not need, and I'm gonna bring it over to that plant swap and see if anybody else wants raspberries that will spread all over their yard. I have some soil from last season that are in these pots here, so I'm gonna pot up this raspberry and hopefully find it home with another gardener who would be happy to have it. Thank you for joining me on this first edition of MyNJGarden.com for 2025. Happy spring, everyone. I hope everyone has a great and productive gardening season, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and join me for all my garden updates.